What's the one thing you wish you could do differently? You had a second chance. If you could do it all over again, we all got that one thing. I probably have 25 things. A lot of times we have regrets and they consume us. They even paralyze us from having joy in our lives, from moving forward, from doing that next thing. Learning from mistakes should be celebrated. Trying to be a better person should be celebrated. I don't understand why we don't allow ourselves that. Why we watch a movie and we always celebrate the glow up, but in real life, we don't. And we love watching an underdog get a second chance with someone who really messed up, be able to get that win. When it comes to ourselves, we don't even give ourselves the chance, let alone do the same thing. So why? That's what I've been thinking about lately. And I've been thinking about it a lot. So let's talk. I am sure you've heard before that everyone makes mistakes, and the important thing is that you gotta learn from them. And even if something's bad, it's still a learning experience and you have to be grateful for it. A mistake becomes a lesson, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's not something we want to hear, especially when you feel alone and isolated and you're in all this regret because of some dumb shit you did or you didn't do, or you were misunderstood, or you basically never had the chance to defend or explain yourself. You don't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear that when I was in those moments. So I get it, but I gotta say it because it's kind of like how we deal with this. Stay with me. Oh, your girl's been there. The thoughts racing through your mind, flashing through your head, spinning around and around, the constant loop of anxiety. But the truth is, they're just thoughts. My therapist tells me anyway. And the best way to get rid of them is by replacing them with new thoughts and new experiences and better moments. I know you want to tell me to go F myself right now, but I have gotten myself through this more than once, actually. And I'm going to help you. Just stick with me. First off, you should give yourself a lot of credit for the fact that you've been trying to examine parts of your life and things you might have done wrong and how you could have done stuff differently and even wrap your head around all of it. So give yourself props for that, because moving through this stuff isn't easy and nobody likes to hold a mirror to themselves. Everybody would be doing it if it was easy. But you can get self-confidence from moments like this, and you can most importantly get freedom from all of it. But before you do that, you got to ask yourself, can you allow yourself to live a happy life? Can you allow yourself to live a happy life regardless of what things you might have done? Because all of this depends on you. You feeling guilty, you thinking about it nonstop. I mean, you're here, you're watching this video. That's you keeping yourself in some type of weird purgatory of punishment or cage of shame. We all make mistakes. I've made mistakes. I'm gonna continue to make mistakes. I've made my fair share. And I've been there. I've kept myself in this prison of my own thoughts and shame to the point where it was so crippling. I was rethinking conversations I had 10 years ago. And then everyone in that moment had moved on from it except me. And I've learned that what separates people who thrive from people who don't is that they deal with their mistakes and they learn how to handle regret, and they fix it or they don't, but they move on and they move forward and they move through. And honestly, that's essential for growth. It's essential for happiness. It's just essential for surviving in this friggin' dumpster fire we're all in. And you gotta kind of know what isn't great and what sucks to kind of know what's amazing and what a win is. You don't know what a win is unless you have a loss. You don't know what doing it right is unless you've had a mistake. And if that's the lens you gotta look at this through, so you can start to get just a handle on it and allow yourself to start to kind of pick up the pieces and move through it, then that's what we gotta do. So how do you fix all this? Well, it takes a little brain rewiring, and it takes you changing how you think about things. Can you go back and not do what you did? No. Can you think about it enough that you change what happens? I mean, if you figure that out, please, I could use your help. Can you choose happiness? Maybe. Is shaming yourself into a depression gonna help you? No. Is living in the moment and being a little more present gonna help? Maybe. But what can you do? You can live in the moment. You can live in the now. You can let your mind be free of some of these thoughts. You can do something about it. You can take some time to grieve and honor the situation and just honor how you're feeling. Sometimes before we can accept what's done is done, or that you made a huge fool of yourself, or your best friend's probably not gonna talk to you again. You need to grieve the regrets, and you need to just hold some space for how you're presently feeling and how all this is holding you hostage in your brain. And as time moves on, you start to put limits on all of it. And I get it, when it's totally fresh, you want to think about this nonstop all day long, but there comes a time where you got to draw the line where you're this isn't healthy for me anymore. This is controlling my life and my happiness. So you start to maybe set some time aside during the day where you allow yourself to ruminate. I literally would set a timer for an hour and be okay, let me think about this. And then I'd be girl, you got to get some stuff done. You got to go make some new experiences, find some joy. You got to put those clothes away. And maybe I didn't start with an hour. I probably started with 12 hours a day, but you kind of chip away at it and you think about it. And unless you're somebody like my husband who you just never think about it again, again and you don't care if you ever talk to them again, I mean, then you're probably not watching this video, let's be honest. I would allow myself moments to just grieve. And in those moments, sometimes I would realize that I could maybe reconcile, or I could probably do my part in figuring out how to talk to this family member again, or realize why we drifted apart and have a better relationship, and maybe take advantage of trying to figure that out now that I'm like really sitting here and thinking about it, and maybe apologize and maybe realize how I could have handled it differently. And if there's something you can do about it, I totally recommend doing it. But also if you've texted them like 35 times and they're like, I'm gonna call the cops because this is kind of like borderline harassment, then you gotta move on, because you're only hurting yourself and it's only keeping you back, and they've kind of told you where they stand and where things are, and they're done. And you gotta accept that. And you can move forward with all of it. You give yourself a little bit of time to kind of ruminate and think about it, and give yourself those moments to grieve. And then when the timer's over, you're like, okay, we got to move on. We put that back on the shelf for today. If you got to revisit it the next day, because the thing about especially grief is like, it doesn't go away. We just kind of learn how to grow bigger around it. And that's what you got to do. This video is brought to you by the Donnas, where they believe Self-Care Sunday should be every day. How do I know this so well? Because I am Donna and I created the Donna shop. So go check it out. There's a ton of goods that have been curated to help you live a very well-designed life, to help you basically create the art of yourself and who you are. We got journals, we got courses, and we got new drops coming in every quarter. The next one I think you're gonna love. So make sure you sign up for the newsletter while you're there so you can get the alerts, and you get a discount if you sign up. But anyway, let's get back to this video, shall we? Okay. You're not always gonna get the chance to express your regret. You're not gonna get the chance to have that conversation sometimes, but you gotta at least be able to deal with the emotions that you're carrying around that's stopping you from moving forward and limiting your happiness. That's why there's grief counselors. This is why there's therapists. This is why it's great to have friends who can hold space and be neutral and want to listen to you and let you express yourself in the moment like that. There's also things like journals. You can write stuff down, get the feelings out, write it on a piece of paper, rip that piece of paper up, destroy it. I don't know, like I like to write down things like, please release me from these emotions. I release these feelings. I release this person, my own limitations around this situation, my thoughts, whatever I got to write down to feel better. But I try to learn from all of it. And then I try to make changes in my behavior and my future reactions and avoid similar situations that even brought me all this BS and all this guilt in the first place. And I try not to lose a lesson from the loss. And I try to consider what I can do differently. And I try to figure out how I can start moving forward today in a different way and be a better person, be a better parent, be a better child, a better friend, a spouse. But like, you gotta stop beating yourself up, because it's never too late to switch it up. Sometimes you gotta have a little confrontation with yourself. I mean, I've sat there replaying mistakes over and over again, like torturing myself to the point of like, what could have been, what should have been, what I should have said, what I didn't say, why did I even say anything in the first place? In many cases, I was able to right the situation and apologize and explain how I put my foot in my mouth and overreacted or even underreacted, or maybe should have minded my own business, to begin with. But there's plenty of other times that those people like straight up cut me from their lives and like didn't want to talk to me or talk about it, and didn't even want to deal with me because of where I was at that point in space in my life or on my journey. And they were kind of like sick of my shit and just finally said out loud, like, we're done. Or that those feelings, like, they made me feel terrible, and I've wanted to have said my piece or didn't get the opportunity to, and I dwelled on it and it held me back, and it kind of kept me in this own like mental prison. But I had to confront like a lot of these negative thoughts head on and replace them with more positive ones. I also had to acknowledge my mistakes, and through things like mindfulness and working on myself and therapy and even astrology and journaling, I was able to see my patterns and my mistakes and my behaviors and figure out where I needed to change the narrative and switch it up, and figure out where I got lessons from this, or maybe how the situation might have been painful, but in that moment it was actually better for me. And in the long run, maybe that friendship breakup was actually a better thing, because I'd still be in that terrible friendship, or I'd still be at that awful job. And if I didn't react that way, I don't know, I would have been still doing whatever that wasn't serving me in the long run. But I also had to understand where I made mistakes and, get over the consequences of these decisions and these actions without continuing to obsess over them and just let them like rule my entire life. You gotta accept, you gotta move on, and you gotta embrace change. And I know when you're in the rut and you've been stuck in that rut of shame and regret and guilt and all the things, just wanting to change it up could be super intimidating, especially when it means you got to confront yourself. But you got to remember that change is not only possible, it's necessary for personal growth. And you got to go back to think about the times where you've been here before and how you moved through it and how you got on to a much better place in space. Because sometimes we're so present and we're so future oriented that we forget that we've actually dealt with stuff in the past and like we've dealt with it really well. And you got to accept that you can't change the past, but you can choose how you respond to what's going on now. And honestly, I wouldn't change my past for anything because it's made me who I am today. And honestly, the most shitty parts of it have made me the most resilient, it's made me the most confident, and it's made me the most independent version of myself, because I'm not perfect, I'm human. And all the things that come with being human is all about experiencing this life and experiencing what's going on with it. And honestly, the shittiest parts of my life have forced me to choose to be more deliberate about figuring out how to move forward. And it's caused the most change in my life. It's caused me to kind of lay the foundation for what was going to be future me. Because happiness, it's a choice. And I got to actively make that choice every day. And I've been in a lot of situations and moments where like, I've even had like super great income in my life. And I've been in moments where I've had no money and didn't know how I was going to pay the rent next month. But even in those moments, I chose to go have fun and I chose to have happiness. And I wasn't going to like lock myself up in the house because I didn't have any money and have all this regret and sit in that. I was like, no, I'm gonna go try to be happy. And I'm gonna give myself permission to have some fun, even though I'm not in a great place in space right now. And I'm gonna focus on some stuff that brings me joy. And that's kind of like what you gotta do now in this moment. Whether it's talking to loved ones, hanging out with your friends, pursuing your passions, or just like going outside and appreciating the fact that you're actually alive. You gotta figure out like the little moments in the regular everyday and like reach out and grab them and focusing on what you can do now to kind of quiet that negative chatter in your mind. I mean, I got a lot of stuff on this channel, like meditations and exercises and all these things to help you be more mindful. So go use them. But being mindful helps you live in that moment and it helps you create a space for new experiences and new memories and the stuff that's gonna help you kind of get over all the stuff that you're keeping in your head from all the mistakes that you've made in the past. You are the only one that's gonna move you through this. So you gotta figure out how to talk to yourself, how to have compassion for yourself, and figure out how to take action to move forward. Go find new hobbies, go find new friends. Because the truth is also, if you're someone who watches this channel and you're someone who's trying to figure out like their best life for themselves, figure out their character and trying to get the best experience out of the dumpster fire, you're gonna make people reactive. You're gonna hold up a mirror to them while you're also holding up a mirror to yourself, especially if at one point you were like a miserable ass bitch and now you're happy, or you're at least you're trying to be. It's gonna get people mad. And you're gonna poke them. And honestly, a lot of them are just sitting there and waiting for you to kind of give them the reason that they can hate you.
Point is, haters gone hate, shake it off, Taylor Swift, always right.
So go get a new hobby, go volunteer, go find a new community, take a class, set some goals for yourself. No one's coming along to orchestrate and redesign the best life for you. You got to do that for yourself. And you can take a small step every day because honestly, even if you wrote one page of a book every day, at the end of the year, you have 365 pages. So take baby steps in your own life. It's all we can do to kind of make the long run happen. Because the truth of the matter is you're going to make mistakes again and you're going to piss somebody else off again. And someone's not going to like you and you're going to do something that someone's not going to be happy with. I mean, I do it every day. So cut yourself some slack. Give yourself a little bit of grace. Try to enjoy life again. Try to move through these mistakes because it's gonna happen again. And when it happens again, come back to this video or go look at your journal and see what you wrote down and figure out how you move through it so you can maybe not hold yourself prisoner for so long again. I don't know, that's what I got. Let me know what you think in the comments. Follow, like this video, subscribe. I know I say follow, like, subscribe. It just rhymes and sounds good, but it's kind of like telling you to do the same thing like twice. But maybe try and do it. All right. I hope this video helped. Stay safe, stay healthy. Most importantly, take care of yourselves, guys. I'll see you on the other side. Bye.